What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So, I rarely do episode reviews nowadays, but boy, Donbrothers episode 8 is really something else. So, before I continue on with my review of Donbrothers episode 8, I would like to remind everyone that there will be spoilers in this video, just for episode 8. Now, there is this bit between Don Momotaro and Sonoi, but I'm not gonna talk about that. So, the important thing that I want to focus on right here is the story, or the focus on Kiji brother and perhaps Ino brother as well. But I do believe Kiji brothers is more interesting. So if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you caught up with the latest episodes, or if you haven't started watching the series, go ahead and do so right now. Because from here on out, it is going to be spoiler territory. So again, this is the last warning before we move on, so I'm begging you guys to please watch first. And I really do want to make this video as soon as possible, while the experience and the emotions are still fresh. So again, pardon me for basically spoiling to you, but now that I've wasted about a couple of minutes trying to convince you guys that there will be spoilers, go on, watch first, come back to this video later when you're finished, okay? So again, major spoilers for Donbrothers episode 8. So now, to talk about the Kiji brother and Ino brother perhaps. So, in a previous episode, we remember that the Ino brother, or Tsubasa, as he's also known, that he has a girlfriend named Natsumi, and the actress who plays Natsumi is also the same actress who plays Kiji brother, aka Tsuyoshi's wife, Miho. So, at first, I thought that she was just a stand-in actress for someone who probably would appear later. But episode 8 probably, or most likely, throws that notion away and does drive the idea that possibly Ino brother's girlfriend and Kiji brother's wife are actually the same person. Now, there is no confirmation yet, but the scenes of episode 8 seem to drive home that point. So, I guess those people who are thinking that, again, Ino brother's girlfriend and Kiji brother's wife are one and the same, so you probably have been vindicated, so congratulations if you are right. But again, there is no concrete evidence to say so yet. But actually, I think Natsumi, aka Miho, if they are the same person, okay, is quite a mystery herself. Now, what exactly happened in this situation? So, in episode 8, it starts off with a weird guy making a sketch. He was at the Donbora Cafe, so Haruka noticed this weird artist. He looks eccentric and really has, facial expressions that write out weird. So it turns out that he was actually drawing Kaito instead of Haruka, because Haruka said that, she felt uncomfortable, like she thought actually, or she assumed that she was the one being drawn. So it turns out she was wrong, and it was actually Kaito. So this guy runs outside of the cafe and bumps into Miho. So apparently he kidnaps her because he thinks she's the perfect model for his art. Now this prompts Kiji brother to look for Miho. But a few hours earlier, so of course at work, or while he was rather outside doing field work. So at a cafe, Tsuyoshi happens to see Tsubasa as well. So of course they've met before, albeit not knowing that the other is also part of the Donbrothers team. So again, they know each other as civilians, but not as rangers. So Tsuyoshi felt that Tsubasa isn't really a bad guy, and they start talking about love. So Tsubasa talks about his girlfriend Natsumi. Tsuyoshi talks about his wife Miho, and there we notice that in their dialogue, as they mention the characteristics of their significant others, it turns out that they're so similar that they're practically the same person, or at least that's what we are led to believe as of yet. So again, there's no concrete evidence that Natsumi and Miho are one and the same, but evidence may point out to that. So again, this is something that's very exciting to watch. So, how will these two characters develop? Now, okay, so moving on. So, going back to that weird artist, right? So, he appears to have kidnapped Natsumi slash Miho, so he can use her as a model for his art. Now, after on the other hand, right? So after meeting, Tsuyoshi actually invites Tsubasa into his apartment, or Tsuyoshi's apartment, to be clear. So he actually wanted to introduce Tsubasa to his wife, and Tsuyoshi actually wanted to show his wedding picture with Miho, but well, as fate would have it, I guess, Tsubasa turned down the offer, in thinking that he'd probably be meeting her in person anyway. However, because Miho slash Natsumi was kidnapped, so Tsuyoshi begins to worry that she is not yet at home, because he knew that she should have been home early. So Tsubasa politely declines the offer anyway to stay for dinner, and this also prompts Tsuyoshi to go out and look for Miho. So going back to Miho, right? This artist that was with her, so he actually had long hair, and Miho, being a hairstylist, offers a haircut. It sounds strange, right? But what happens is that the amount of hair that she had cut off from that guy, because he had really long hair, by the way, it was long enough for her to use as a rope. It turns out that Miho slash Natsumi seems to know self-defense to some extent, and she was actually able to grapple down this weird guy and tie his hands behind using his own hair that she had cut off just a few moments prior. So, with that said, there also seems to be an air of mystery around Natsumi, aka Miho, right now. Again, are they really the same person? And if they are, if she is both Natsumi and Miho, you get what I'm saying? So what is her purpose? Why would she leave Tsubasa as a fugitive? Or why would she ask him to specifically try to escape for 1 year? And if she married, Tsuyoshi, is it out of love, or is she hiding her true personality? Things are getting interesting, isn't it? Or aren't they? Anyway, so with that said, right, now what happens next is interesting. So as Miho, right? So Miho manages to escape, and of course, she and Tsuyoshi would bump into each other. Now, what happens next is interesting because this weird artist, turns into the monster of the week, which is, by the way, based on Kira Major. Makes sense because he likes, he is an artist, he draws, parallel to Kirame Red, who also draws. And of course, the Hitotsuki has a lot of gems around him, making him look like, he's, a Kirame stone by himself. So, with that said, this angers Tsuyoshi so much, right? And, the guy who we would assume is the nicest, amongst the Donbrothers, I do think that, or at least I would assume that Tsuyoshi would actually be the voice of reason for the team instead of Haruka. Uh, you know, yes, stereotypically, if there is an only female in a Sentai team, she actually is, for most of the time, the voice of reason, trying to keep everyone together. But actually here, I would have assumed that it would be Tsuyoshi's role. But no, he's so angry that, he immediately transforms. So especially that seeing that this guy who kidnapped his wife turned into a Hitotsuki. So of course, as a Don brother, Kiji brother has to fight him, right? Now things get interesting from here on out. So, you know, uh, while Miho was actually running away from this guy, so she happened to cross paths with Tsubasa. However, they weren't able to see each other, but they were in the same place, or at least Miho happened to pass by where Tsubasa was standing, but they were on different positions. Uh, Miho was running on an elevated area while Tsubasa was down below. But the frame slows down, implying that they may know each other, implying this connection, right? So, anyways, going back, so Kiji brother starts to battle this Hitotsuki, and then, of course, eventually the other Don Brothers team, or the other Don Brothers, of course, Tsubasa included, so they arrive to help defeat the Hitotsuki. Now, here comes Sonoi. So, if you guys remember, I did mention that Sonoi is also kind of involved in this episode. But, what happened earlier, so again, that's for you guys to decide. Or that's something for you guys to see for yourselves, rather. Sorry about that. But anyway, so, as I've mentioned before in my Noto video, so the Don Brothers and the Noto are kind of rivals when it comes to the Hitotsuki. So I have mentioned, and I guess I have to mention again to be clear, so the Don Brothers need to be the ones to defeat the Hitotsuki in order to separate the host from the monster. So they're basically trying to save lives, right? However, if the Noto destroy the Hitotsuki, the hosts are kind of trapped in this dimension, like this cube, and it breaks. Whether this actually kills the host is still unknown, but let's say, for now, that it does. And so far, it has happened twice. So in the first episode, Sono-i actually, quote-unquote, kills Haruka's classmate, right? So the first instance of Anoto actually destroying Hitotsuki and consequently killing the host. So it happens, and then I think in around episode 3, so Sono ni also shoots her arrow into the back of the Hitotsuki, killing the host. And now Sono-i once again in episode 8 destroys the Hitotsuki and presumably killing his host. Now, what happened is actually interesting. So it seems that Don Momotaro was actually ready to finish off the Hitotsuki when suddenly Tsuyoshi gets in the way and actually pushes Don Momotaro aside, missing the mark. This, of course, leaves Sono-i, open for the opportunity to destroy the monster himself. And from what I saw, this may have been an intentional part, or this may have been intentional on Kiji brothers' part. So why? Now, Tsuyoshi is very fond of his wife, and actually we're going to skip to the end scenes of this episode, because during the last few seconds of the episode, so we see Tsuyoshi at home with Miho. So it looks like they're happy, they're having breakfast, and Tsuyoshi actually cooks for his wife, which is nice. However, there is an internal monologue playing while we see this scene. So it's what, of course, what Tsuyoshi is thinking. And he says that he is going to do everything to protect his wife. Everything. Now, there is also some kind of symbolism here, because so their windows are open, and it's open enough for air to pass through. And while this internal monologue is happening, the curtains are blown and Tsuyoshi's face is kind of shadowed. Again, this is an interesting symbolism, because who we think is supposedly the nicest amongst the Donbrothers may actually be hiding something sinister. So, this really shows, how interesting the Donbrothers characters can be. So, with that said, going back to that battle against the Hitotsuki, right? So, as I've mentioned, Kiji brother intentionally pushes Don Momotaro out of the way so that he would miss the target, because he knows what happens to the Hitotsuki, or Kiji brother rather, knows what would happen to the Hitotsuki if they were defeated by the Noto. So again, it was highly likely that Kiji brother had Sono-i finish off the monster, because this is what actually Tsuyoshi says in his internal monologue. People like them, aka the guy who kidnapped Miho, are not allowed to live. That's right, we are seeing a darker side of Tsuyoshi. Now, this actually may have been shown, I think last week. No, a couple of episodes before. So, episode 6, if I remember correctly. Tsuyoshi used his Kibi points, albeit unwittingly, so that he can be, his more idealized self, someone who is good at work, someone who's cooler, and, who seems to be a better guy for Miho. But in turn, his arrogance surfaces. That's why Taro rather, or Don Momotaro, says that, or he's able to tell that Tsuyoshi got weaker, quote unquote, so to speak, because we see, like, as I have mentioned actually in a few videos before, particularly with the Kibi points. So his weakness, his weakness surfaces masked as something that appears superior, right? Because he was trying to cover up what he really is, or at least how we see Tsuyoshi normally. So Taro sees it as a form of weakness. And again, in episode 8, or at least in this episode, because as I'm recording it, it's the same day. So that darkness within Tsuyoshi is starting to show bit by bit. This is interesting because, the guy who we see as quote unquote the rebel of the group, Tsubasa, being, his suit, his costume, at least as a civilian, is kind of dark and edgy. He's portrayed as a fugitive on the run. But looks can be deceiving. We can see that Tsubasa is actually a really nice guy, while Tsuyoshi, who appears to be a nice guy, hides a lot of evil. So, you know what? With that said, I think I have another idea for the next video. So, if you want to see that, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bells so you get to see that specific video when it comes out. And actually, I think I should be recording that next. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, share, comment down below what you think of episode 8 of Donbrothers, assuming that you've watched it already. If you haven't, go check it out. So I've already placed, or I've already mentioned that there will be spoilers many times earlier in this video. But again, if you've already seen Donbrothers episode 8, so let me know what you think about this situation down in the comments below. And as always, of course, subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Phil, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.